Of course, if you were watching Paul Murray live before, you would have had all the lowdown on the second leaders' debate tonight. Of course, Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton faced off on the ABC this time. We'll get into a little more detail in a moment, but if you missed it, here's a little bit of Dutton's performance.
We approach the 3rd of May. Many Australians will be asking themselves, are you better off today than you were 3 years ago? People have seen food prices go up by 30%. Their mortgages have gone up on 12 occasions. Over the last 2 years, the government's brought in 1 million people, all of whom want homes and all of whom are competing against young Australians for that rental property or to purchase a home. That's 1 million people, which is 70% higher than any 2-year period in our country's history. Anthony, your government has modelled negative gearing changes and CGT changes.
Well,
the Treasurer has done that.
That's not right.
Well, it is.
Now, look, I don't think there were any knockout blows from Peter Dutton here. I don't think he walked in there and had Anthony Albanese on the floor completely defeated. I think he did a decent job, but there was nothing that made me look at that debate and go, well, this is really going to turn the dial. Of course, Anthony Albanese was talking up his economic record.
We are the only government in the last 20 years that have produced consecutive budget surpluses, and we've halved the deficit this year. As a direct result of the responsible economic management that we have, debt is $177 billion less.
Now, interestingly, they were both asked what sort of great economic legacy they would leave. They were given the example of, John Howard and the GST, floating the dollar as Paul Keating did. What is the great economic vision that your government has or would have? Peter Dutton referred to nuclear, which I think is a fair thing to nominate. That is a serious policy. But the one Albanese came up with, of all the things he could possibly say, this is the great reform my government will achieve, is affordable childcare. Something tells me that in 20 years' time, people won't be looking back at this government and going, that great reform that Anthony Albanese pushed through, affordable childcare. If that's as good as his vision gets, it tells us a lot about where this government is at. There were a couple of other slip-ups, one by Anthony Albanese when he was asked point blank, when the hell are power bills going to come down?
Sorry, just sticking with your plan, Mr Albanese, when will the bills come down?
Under our plan, we know that renewables are the cheapest form of power, and that is why we are doing that, rolling it out, including through gas. Peter raised gas. Gas is now $13. It was $30.
And when does it get cheaper?
When we came off, 13 is cheaper than 30.
When do we?
Indeed, 13 is cheaper than 30, but 275 is also a lot cheaper than what I'm paying on my power bill at the moment, isn't it, Mr Albanese? He couldn't answer the question once again. And the one that slipped up Peter Dutton, I think it was a big mistake he made when he was asked whether he trusts Donald Trump. And we know that there has been a want to link Donald Trump to Peter Dutton, and obviously it's coming through in the polling now that's actually sticking to Dutton a bit. So Dutton took the tack that, well, I've not met the bloke, so I can't say that I trust him. And then Albo was asked, do you trust Peter Dutton? Do you trust Donald Trump? There you go, I'm making the link now. Do you trust Donald Trump? And Albanese simply said, yes, of course I do. For someone who wants to be the Prime Minister to not say that they trust the leader of the free world, the leader of one of our closest allies, it was a very strange...
I thought that was a very, very messy moment by Peter Dutton, and I just wonder if is that now the campaign strategy? I wonder if that's what his team has told him to say. Whenever you're asked about Donald Trump, just say, I don't know the bloke, just keep him at an arm's distance, simply because of the comparisons. But it's actually made the situation worse, because if you are asked, do you trust Donald Trump, our number one ally, the leader of the free world, the answer is yes, you do. You should have absolute confidence in the leader of the free world. Who cares if you know him? Who cares if you don't know him? I don't care if you haven't shook his hand or not yet. But I thought that was the biggest slip-up of the night. What I will say, though, is that I think that Peter Dutton, for the first time, was on message, short and sharp, and he finally stuck to the cost of living. There was no dilly-dallying left or right. It was straight down the line, because that's the message that Australians want to hear. They want to know how he's going to help with their power bills, what he's going to do. It's very easy to get Anthony Albanese on energy. I mean, for goodness sake, going in circles, renewable is the best option. Renewables are always cheaper. Well, we know that renewables are not the cheapest option, because our power bills have gone in the exact opposite direction under this Labor fantasy. But there was also another slip-up that I thought was interesting by Anthony Albanese tonight. It just goes to show he has no idea where the figures are coming from key policies. He claimed that Labor did not model the overhaul of negative gearing and capital gains tax, despite the fact that the Treasurer actually asked Treasury to do that last year, and Albo slipped up on it. He's like, well, you know, no, we've got the modelling. He has no idea where the modelling has come from, just like he didn't know where that Reputex modelling came from a couple of years ago to model that $275. But I thought for the first time tonight, Dutton was on message very well on cost of living.